Texans did not trade for Deebo. Did they make a mistake? The skill position guys worked out. How did they look? Let's talk about that. Let's go inside the locker room special Saturday night live edition.
It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. Little special Saturday edition of what's going on in the NFL with the Houston Texans. And the big news, we'll start off here. Deebo Samuel not going to be a Houston Texan. It feels like majority of folks are kind of happy about this. I sensed a lot of anti-Deebo pushback when this was thrown out. And the original report was from the Starbucks baby, Mr. Schultz. Diana Rossini said earlier in the day it wasn't going to happen. She seems to have the best grasp of what's going on with the Texans. She bursted onto the scene last year as it kind of established herself as like the national person that knew what was going on. And she said it was wasn't going to happen, and it did not happen. Deebo Samuel is going to be a Washington Commander. The cost was a 5th-round pick in the final year of his contract. Did the Texans make a mistake? This segment is brought to you by BetUS. Promo code YouTube150 will get you in the game. You can play the casino games. You can play the basketball, whatever you want. You could have bet on the combine today. And we got some funny stuff that went on with in the combine that we'll talk about in a second. There might be some liars. There were some claims from a couple of guys, and they didn't even come close.
This is fake. This fake.
It's a fake?
Yeah, that's Photoshop. That's fake. On my mama, that's fake. On my heart, on my life, my little brother grave, I could die right now. That's fake.
We'll get into that. Did we miss something? Did we miss some sarcasm? We'll get into that in a sec. Right off the top, the Deebo trade. Did the Texans make a mistake? If you knew this price, and a lot of times the mistake is made of the assumption that you could have gotten the guy for the same price. But let's just pretend in this fantasy world, no assuming, let's pretend that the Texans could have had Deebo Samuel for a 5th rounder, and they would have just had to pick up 1 year of his salary. And according to Shefty, and shout out to everybody that's on that
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Shout out to you. But would you have made this trade? Right off the top in the chat, and I like the localized thought because that's what we do here. DJ Big Mac says that was cheaper than the Diggs trade. By a long shot. By a long shot. Because it's a true rental. I mean, it's a true 1-year deal. After that, it's over. And it costs you a 5th instead of trading back 19 spots in the first round, which is essentially what they did. Some would say 2nd-round pick or whatever, but I looked at it, trading back 19 spots, which is more expensive than a 5th. So when you see the Diggs trade last year and you see Deebo, did the Texans pay too high of a price? Is this the right price for Deebo? Stoots wanted no part of him. A lot of people wanted no part of him. I think it's something you had to consider. They don't have a lot of draft picks right now. And I think at the bare minimum, I think we can question the way that Nick Caserio manages the salary cap. I think we can question that. Because I think it's, on one hand, he says, well, we look at stuff in 2-year windows. And 2-year windows is how we look at the cap. And you can convince yourself that that's a conservative, smart way of thinking. But let's think about it this way. Does that mean you're reckless in the 2-year window? Does it mean that you're willing to be a little bit more reckless? 16 mil of dead cap in the second year without Stephon Diggs, whether he's on the team or not. Contract extensions for Titus Howard and Shaq Mason. Are the Texans reckless with salary cap money? And is that going to prevent them from improving their team as much as they can this offseason? It's a fair question. Kind of beat it to death, but I think it's a valid thing to ask. Very, very valid thing to ask. Did they make a mistake not trading for Deebo Samuel? My answer would be no. I think they can do a good job in free agency, secondhand free agency. Maybe not the draft, might be a little bit tough. But I have no problem with them not trading for Deebo Samuel. I thought there was a chance that he might actually be released in just fair game. I thought there was a chance at that. Didn't happen. So that's just where the Texans are. And Deebo Samuel not going to be a Houston Texan. Neither is this guy. You're saying get an Eamon Worry? Not going to happen. If he's there at 25, I think you gotta consider creating the blob, BLOB, aka Baby Legion of Boom. But I would not bet on that. I would not bet on that at all. Not even a little bit. Let me figure this out, this audio. I'm gonna mute this. This is gonna be better. All right, we're good now. The wireless is acting up from and I appreciate the lookout. Yusuf. Shout out to Yusuf in the chat. This just got back from Indy, so it's a little it was connected to another thing. So I think we're good now. We're good. Appreciate the lookout though. But Eamon Worry's not going to be a Houston Texan. There's no chance of that. None at all. But the running back situation is something I want to touch on. Because the running backs, they've been hyped up heading into this thing. And now there's even more hype. Because these guys shined. There weren't a lot of running backs that had a disappointing day today. Depending how you look at it. The local kid might have kind of made a little bit of a fool of himself, but he wasn't the one that made the biggest fool of himself, and he wasn't the one who ran the slower time. But if we look at these running backs, this is NFL.com. Jaden Blue ran the 4.38. That's not the Xavier Worthy time that he said he was going to run. But then you look at all these other guys. Travion Henderson, 4.43. That's huge for him. Second round pick. I don't think he gets past the second round pick. He did very well for himself. Omarion Hampton, 4.46. 97th percentile in body mass index. 38-inch vertical. Day one running backs with a 110-plus speed score since 2015. And that's what he had. And this is according to Ryan Heath. This is the list that Omarion Hampton joins just based on combine. But this is the list of running backs who are on the list and on the company of how he performed. And I'll pull this up right now for you. Look at this list right here. Saquon, Travis Etienne, Leonard Fournette, Jahmyr Gibbs, Rashad Penny, and Ezekiel Elliott. It's a pretty damn good list to be on. Hampton did his thing. We talked about yesterday, he compares his game to Joe Mixon. He talks about the potentially pairing with Joe Mixon. Some people were opposed to that. Some people were not. But he did his thing today. Omarion Hampton had a very good day. as did Quinton Judkins. And we haven't talked a lot about him. But at 221, he ran a 4.48. He had a 39-inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump. We might have two guys from the same team going in the second round. He did well for himself. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, probably the most disappointing. He ran a 4.57. He's probably a third rounder, maybe even a day 3 guy now. And that's just kind of the reaction of the running back position. A lot of these guys we feel good about. And Brashard Smith, that's another guy that the Texans are pretty high on, it seems like. Kind of some untapped potential. Not as much opportunity at SMU. But that's a guy that they've talked to. I'm looking out for Henderson. I don't know that he gets past the Raiders. That's the other thing that I noticed at the combine is all these Ohio State guys, they kind of light up whenever Chip Kelly comes up. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders perhaps drafting one of these Ohio State guys. Maybe in the second, third, whatever. But the running backs, we've talked about them. We've gassed them up. They're even more gassed up now. The guys that you've been saying you would like to have, most of those guys, they came through. Now, Jaden Blue, that's a nice 40 time. 4.38. But that ain't what you promised me, and that ain't what you promised the people. This was my visit with Jaden Blue. This is what he said about his 40 time. And he was a little off.
That was the person I ran next to, and me and him used to go at it.
How'd you stack up with him?
I mean, he won a few, I won a few, so it's not like he's fast. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
I don't think people really know how fast I am because I don't really run in games unless I have to. So, but I think y'all see that tomorrow.
All right, so Jaden Blue said all that. He wasn't close to worthy. He ran a 4.44 the first time. It was kind of like 4.4, good. But that ain't what you said. You said you were going to break the record, my friend. Didn't happen. And the other thing that I thought was a little bit surprising with Jaden Blue, and there was opportunity just based on how fast he looks and how fast he said he was, to where you kind of thought, well, maybe this guy steals the show. He didn't steal the show. He's probably a day 3 guy. He didn't have a great day. And I was surprised he didn't do the drills. If he was healthy enough to run the 40, I thought that the receiving drills and stuff, I thought that would have been a big opportunity for him to kind of shine. But I think we can officially say RIP to day 2 Blue. I think the day 2 Blue dream is kind of dead. Day 3 now, which might make it more appealing. If you're taking a guy who's a good receiving running back and a guy who can do some other things, but the day 2 Blue, probably rest in peace on that. So he didn't look too bad though. Again, still the second fastest running back, still a pretty good time. And still, it would have been surprising, but he just said it with such a straight face. I really believed him. I thought, man, okay, well, he beats Xavier Worthy in races. We're about to get a hell of a show. We did not. But that's the running back portion. Not a lot really more to add than what we've talked about. The running backs, they put on a show at the combine. So shout out to the running backs. I would like to see the Texans in that. Eric says, I say take Hampton at 25. It's a polarizing opinion. Some people disagree. I would do it. If he's RB1, take him. Take him. Pair him with Mixon. Figure it out. Make it happen. Make it happen. We need to go to the replay booth before we go to before we get to the wide receivers. And we've talked about Deebo Samuel. Was Isaiah Bond out of Texas joking and we just missed the joke? when he said that he was going to break Xavier Worthy's record. Because he was further away, way further away than what Jaden Blue was. He wasn't even top 10 in 40 times. Isaiah Bond. He said it with a straight face. I want to check the tape. Let's pretend we're in the replay booth. Was he kidding? Is he waiting for a laugh? And he just kept it moving? Or did he really believe he was going to beat Xavier Worthy's record? Because I watched him play. I didn't think he was Xavier Worthy fast. I didn't think he was Jaden Blue fast. Proved not to be the case. But he's getting mocked a little bit. I guess he got kind of booed when he ran his first 40 because people were holding him to his word. Did we miss a joke?
I'm going to break the record tomorrow, for sure. I anticipate running 4.20 or possibly I'm feeling great. I might run 4.1.
Was he kidding? Or was he dead serious? Because if so, I need to know who's timing these guys. Who exactly? Who's timing these guys to where they thought they were going to beat Xavier Worthy's time? I'm really confused. I'm confused by that. And here's the craziest thing about it. You had two Longhorns say they were coming for that record. And then the guy who runs the fastest one is the one who said the least. Matthew Golden. Popular name around here. I'm not as high on Matthew Golden as a lot of you are. I like him all right. And yes, actually Bond was in the top 4. Excuse me. He was in the top 10. Excuse me. Yeah, he was right there. They tweaked the time. So he's a 4.39. It was a 4.4. Okay, so good for him. Top 4. Excuse my mistake there. But Matthew Golden runs a 4.29. Ibuka did not run the 40. But between Golden, Burden, those are the guys, Ibuka, those are the guys that you're talking about potentially being there at 25. And it making sense. And Matthew Golden did very well for himself. Again, could be wrong. I just don't think of him as 25 overall. We'll see what the Texans have to say. The Ohio State receivers did well for themselves too. Jaden Higgins, he's 6'4", 214. He ran a 4.7 at a 39-inch vertical leap. Maybe the Texans like that. That's Higgins. Noel, another Ohio State receiver, 4.39, 41.5-inch hops. Best broad jump. Ohio State. Far as the wide receivers, Antwain Wells out of Mississippi, according to NFL Network, 4.58. Kind of dropped his stock. But Noah Ibuka, and then the other guys, as we said, the two that you probably need to look at 25, Golden and Burden, they do well for themselves. So we'll see what they decide to do. Golden wide receiver 1 for a lot of people. Golden surprised me. Golden didn't say anything, did he? He didn't say anything. His two teammates, maybe he was getting accurate times. I don't know. But Golden's becoming a popular guy. Back in the first round, not unrealistic. Never really was. But he definitely did a lot better for himself. So the wide receiver position, interesting. You know you're not going to get Deebo Samuel. Don't think that impacted that decision in the first place. But that's where the Texans are going to be looking right there. Those are the decisions they're going to have to make. And we'll see what Ibuka does at Pro Day. By the way, Scatabo did not. He did okay in the other testing, but he did not run his 40. He's going to do that at the private Arizona State day, Pro Day. Jalen Noel, he had one of the best combines for a wideout. And then Golden 4.29. His 4.29. These are stats from NFL.com. Second fastest by a receiver weighing at least 190 since 2003. God dang. And 8th fastest by a wide receiver since 2013 per NFL.com. Yeah, I would say first round's happening. Houston guy, Longhorn, who knows? Stay tuned, keep an eye on it. But definitely happening. I'm going to answer the following question later on in the show. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the special Saturday live stream on that.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Does a QB hold the key to an elite 2015 draft for the Texans? The answer may surprise you. Speaking of quarterbacks, I'm browsing the internet and I'm looking at like the winners and losers, and everybody has their winners and losers of the combine. I understand the wide receivers. I understand the tight ends. I understand every position. But I'm seeing that Quinn Ewers somehow just helped his stock. Who did not expect Quinn Ewers to throw well without any pass rush against air and without pads? Like, did that surprise you? Like, it's one thing if Jalen Milroe goes out there and spins it. Did anyone expect Quinn Ewers not to be able to throw it against air with no pass rush? Like, did that surprise somebody? Maybe you just watched him against the pass rush in pads in actual games. But I don't understand the Quinn Ewers stock raised. If you take Quinn Ewers before day 3, more power to you. But I'm surprised that was so impressive. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Chase says Golden Combine numbers were very similar to Santonio Holmes. Yeah, I saw Daniel Jeremiah put that up too. I'll pull that up actually since you bring it up. And Santonio was good. But let me see this. Jeremiah put it up, and it was like extremely similar. All right, here it is. So Daniel Jeremiah put this. So the height, see, very close. 5'10 and a half, 5'11. So Golden had him by an inch. Weight, 188, 191, 3 pounds. Arm length, slightly more and a slightly better 40. So Golden actually, he was close to everything, but he was better than him at everything. And if you can get Santonio Holmes in the first round of this draft, you can get the equivalent of that, I think you take it every time. If you think he's going to be that. Gunnar Helm is a day 3 pick now. He looked like ass. He probably had the worst combine of any tight end. God, that was bad for him. He probably didn't sleep too well. But yeah, let's just keep an eye on that. Speed doesn't always mean you're going to be good in the league. That's true, sir. That's a true observation by you, my friend. That's fact. Don't know. Never know fully based on the combine. It's just another tool. Jaden Blue, something else that's getting talked about with Jaden Blue too. And you know this always happens. The hand size, man. Hand size came up, which actually for him, I think it's a really, really bad thing. And I'll explain. His biggest problem is fumbling. Like if your hands are the second smallest at the entire combine, which is what Jaden Blue's were, I mean, then maybe that explains the fumbling. Your hands aren't going to get bigger. Maybe you hold it a little higher and tighter, but the hand's kind of a part of holding the rock, especially when you're moving a little bit. So that might actually explain the fumbling, and that's why day 2 Blue is officially dead. The 40 time and the hand size. It'd be one thing if he were just there was never a fumbling problem. We wouldn't look at the hands. Sometimes they talk about quarterbacks' hand size, and it's like there's a lot of data that shows that it matters. But if the guy's just killing it, then it's just kind of like an eyebrow raiser. But if a guy's fumbling a lot and he has the second smallest hands at the combine, might kind of tell you something about Jaden Blue. Might kind of tell you something. So, problem for Jaden Blue, not great. 8 3/4, 8 1/4 was the hand size. That's from CJ Vogel. Covers the horns very well. CJ Vogel. So Jaden Blue, not great. Matthew Golden, great. Isaiah Bond, not great. Was he lying? Did we decide if Matthew Golden was lying? Or not? Isaiah Bond. Did we figure out if Isaiah Bond was fibbing, or was he being serious? Did he really think that he was gonna break the 40 time? Don't know. Where are the Texans going to go, though, on offense this offseason? We kind of got to transition. Free agency is less than 2 weeks away. So draft, cool. Got a little bit of a grasp. Pro day is still a thing. But free agency is about to start. No Deebo Samuel. How are they going to attack that? What are we going to be saying about the receiving core once the Texans enter the draft? Are we going to be talking about it still being a dire need? Is there anything they can really do to where it won't be? Maybe Cooper Kupp's a thing now. Don't really know. Then we go to the offensive line. Are they only focused on the offensive line? Don't know about this one, but I don't pretend to be an offensive line expert, but Cody Stoots, he was on the scene today. Do you want to draft a guard in the first round? Do we want to do that? Do you trust old Nick and D'Amico to draft a guard in the first round? That's the question. Stoots had the conversation. Alabama guard Tyler Booker. He's met with the Texans. He said he'd be thrilled to play with Will Anderson.
It would mean a lot to be on the team with Will Anderson. Yeah, as I mentioned my leadership earlier, I've learned a lot of my leadership skills from Will. Being around a guy like that who loves the game of football, that's something hard to pass up on. Like in the game of football, not everybody loves it. I'm a guy who eats, sleeps, and breathes football, and not everybody does it. Some people play for the money. Some people play just because they're good at it. But I love the game of football, and Will is another person who truly loves the game of football just as much as I do.
Doesn't it almost sound like, I don't know if y'all picked this up or not, but doesn't it kind of sound like he's kind of selling D'Amico Ryans? Because he did meet with the Houston Texans per Stoots. He talked about picking up stunts. He talked about Will Anderson, and we always hear D'Amico say he wants guys who love football. Did that not sound like someone who maybe had an in-depth meeting with the Texans? Am I reading too much into it? Very possible. But all I hear from D'Amico, right, we want guys who love football. We want guys who love to play the game of football. We hear it all the time from D'Amico. Tyler Booker, I don't know what the reaction is going to be. I think there might be some happiness. Got to solidify the offensive line. We also got to evaluate it right. Not too long ago, y'all took a guard pretty early in the first round. Worst draft pick Nick Caserio's ever made. You traded up for another guard center. Drew Scruggs hadn't been awesome. Traded for Shaq and gave him an extension. Not awesome. Titus Howard extension. Now he's a guard. Not awesome. If he's a good player, awesome. You got a good guard. If he's a guard that warrants a first-round pick, that's great. That's awesome. DJ Big Mac asks it. Do you trust Nick when it comes to drafting linemen? No. Why would I? Why would I? Absolutely not. But if they draft a guard, look out. Look out. Some deja vu. Then you have other offensive linemen. And I'll be honest, I don't pretend to be the offensive line guy. Cody Stoots is more into that, the O-line. But Booker's someone who I kept a close eye on. And then Calvin Banks, he's talked to 30 teams. He said 9 of the 30 asked him about playing guard. They asked him if he'd ever played guard before. He said no. So I don't know where that goes. I don't know if that means that people think he is or isn't worth. He might be the ideal guy, and we've seen a lot of examples of this where he starts out at guard and then ends up being a tackle once he figures some stuff out. But those are the two guys. Outside of that, I'll just be honest with you. I'm not really a big offensive line guy when it comes to the draft. You draft them and then you do as much research as possible, and that's it. But crunching the tackles, the guards, the centers, I'm not into it. Yeah, if you're drafting a tackle at the top end, or maybe if you need a tackle, that's fine. But we get two inside that offensive line. I'm not going to pretend to be that guy. Booker's supposed to be the best, as good as it gets at guard. I'll tell you this. If you are going to take a guard at 25, there's a chance you're going to be the first team taking a guard. So you better hit. You better hit. Especially with the needs, with the skill position guys, you better hit. And they seem to have visited with damn near every offensive lineman. Rhonda says she'd be Rhonda, he or she. I would like Booker. Never thought Kenyon Green would be worth a bleep. Well, I just assumed if you take a guard in the top 15, we're at least going to feel okay about him starting. I don't think anyone could have imagined it being that bad. But we'll see what happens with the O-line. Francisco says he likes D'Amico's mindset on wanting D-line. Haven't really gotten a grasp of what direction that would go. We saw them work out yesterday. But the running backs that you wanted, that you fell in love with, you might be in no man's land. Because at 25, some would say it's too early. And then in the second round, there's going to be a run. None of these really good guys might be there. Might be talking more scat backs than just the potential 3-down monsters. Who knows? Sometimes the running backs will surprise you late in the draft. But they might be in no man's land on that. Unless they want to take one in the first round. I heard Jeremiah today talking about, you don't want to take it early because if you're on a bad team, you're wasting carries. It's not wasting carries. And even if you don't have a good offensive line, was Saquon a wasted pick for the Giants? No, they probably just didn't want to pay him a second time. He got him to the playoffs. He was when he was out there, he was one of the best. If you get 3-4 years out of a running back, it's not a waste. I don't get this mindset with the running backs, but he's actually kind of defending him. Then he's saying that. I don't care. I don't agree with that. But we'll see where the Texans go. It's not going to be Deebo. If it's an offensive lineman, it'll be tough. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the segment and the video. YouTube 150 if you want to get in on the casino and the sports betting. The Jackson Dart opportunity. I teased this earlier in the show. Could a quarterback actually hold the keys to the Texans having an extra successful draft? Right now, they don't have a lot of ammunition when it comes to the picks. We know there's 2 quarterbacks that are expected to go relatively soon. Jackson Dart crawling up some draft boards. First round is what a lot of people are talking about. And at the end of the first round is where teams trade up to get quarterbacks because you get that 5th-year option. And quarterbacks are important, so you're willing to pay more. If the Texans are sitting at 25, and there's a team that wants to trade up for Jackson Dart, usually a lot of times it's kind of a team in the top 5, top 10 who passes on one of the top quarterbacks because they don't want to do that, and then they decide to trade up. So, like, let's say the New York Giants. Let's say the New York Giants decide they're going to go stopgap this year, and with the number 3 overall pick, they don't necessarily want to take Shedeur Sanders, and Cam Ward might be off the board. So they decide, okay, well, we're going to draft our guy, and then if Jackson Dart falls, we're going to trade up. So the Texans then would potentially get the Giants' second-round pick, which would be 3 overall, which would be perfect for the running back position. Perfect. And they'd probably get an extra 3rd or 4th, something like that. So you would be trading back 10 spots. That's 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 4th, 5th. And then the running back run. Some people don't want to take it the first round. Well, who knows? Now you'll have what, 8, 9 picks? And the running back will make sense. So if you see a team like the Giants, let's say the Raiders decide, hey, we don't want Shedeur Sanders. Chip Kelly's like, I don't want that guy. Raiders trade up. That's typically how that works right there when you're at 25. And the Texans are in a perfect spot for that. Because you're talking like 10, 15, these teams that need quarterback that might not necessarily want to take one. Hell, we saw it with the Tennessee Titans 2 years ago. Didn't work out well. But it was the Texans' original second-round pick. It was 33 overall, I think. 33, 34. The one that they used to trade for Will Anderson, Arizona traded with the Titans. The Titans, they drafted Will Levis in the 2nd. We saw that the Baltimore Ravens, how'd they acquire Lamar Jackson? Traded back into the 1st round. It happens often. But we don't anticipate the Giants taking a quarterback. What if they want to bring in a Aaron Rodgers or something like that and have Jackson Dart learn behind him? I think it's perfect. Because those are the type of teams that it's going to be. Those are the quarterback needy teams. You look at the draft order in round 1. There's only 2 quarterbacks that are surefire 100% first round picks. The Titans. We think they're going to take Cam Ward. Who knows? Cleveland needs a quarterback. Are they going to take Shedeur Sanders number 2? I don't know. What if they don't want to? What if they want to trade up? We've done business with the Browns before. The Giants, number 3. Patriots don't need a quarterback. Jags, they might need a quarterback, but they have a quarterback technically. Raiders, number 6. We mentioned that. Jets, they don't have a young quarterback. Saints, maybe the Saints take someone at 9 and then they like Jackson Dart to learn behind Derek Carr. And then we're getting kind of further back with San Francisco Cowboys. But the teams that need a quarterback are gone. What if Indy wants to make a trade? Division on division trade. 14. They want competition, don't they? They keep saying it. I mean, there's probably like 6, 7 teams in the top 15 that could trade up if they fall in love with Jackson Dart. And falling in love with is, hey, we don't like these other 2 guys. It might be as much about, man, these guys suck. This guy might be better. Something to keep an eye on. Because stockpiling the picks is not the worst thing in this draft. So even though you're not in the quarterback business, the quarterback situation might put you in an interesting situation. So we'll keep an eye on it. No Deebo Samuel. What the hell are they going to do now? Ibuka, we don't know whether his stock's going to rise or fall. Matthew Golden, his stock did rise. And these running backs, they're all badasses, as we anticipated, and they showed it in the combine. A lot going on. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. We're getting into off-season free agency mode. SNL, we'll put a bow on the combine on Monday. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Peace.
We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number one. You